Law of honesty in operation. Honesty is isness. It is the permanent state of conscious light. Therefore, consciousness can only operate honestly. Distinguishing what is so anywhere and everywhere at all levels of existence is accomplished through honesty, because consciousness is always honest. Consciousness is the one source of all existence. Therefore, honesty is the basis for all proper actions and relationships. Revealed in humanity. Honesty is the foundation for humanity operating in beingness, because honesty means operating in accordance with divine law. When you are honest about being one with the source of infinite eternal consciousness, that awareness provides an avenue to the joy of existing, and therefore to love and compassion. At the level of being, you experience love from the honesty of isness. Jesus demonstrated this law when he stated, "I and the Father are one." Living honestly means living as your divine self. At the sensory level, you have the opportunity to bring forth love when you are honest about what is occurring. Honest assessments allow you to operate properly with another being's concerns as your own concerns, and to determine if people are addressing those concerns without losing their identity. Love springs from honesty. If an emotion feels like love, but is based on personal desire, then it is actually an attachment. One aspect of the law of honesty involves relating to things, while another aspect involves relating to people. For both situations, honesty means operating with conscience. It means operating properly with laws, or operating in accordance with facticity, which is what is so of the universe. To relate honestly, focus on actions and relationships instead of on things. Honesty regarding things. Things are coalesced elementals that appear and disappear. What is important about things is how we relate to them. For example, a person can use a blanket as a sleep cover, a tent, a curtain, a container, a robe, a fire extinguisher, and many other ways. Seeing the world as composed of inert objects denies the inherent spark of conscious light within everything. Such an approach is dishonest about what is going on in this universe. Practicing honesty allows people to dissolve the appearances of the world that keep them enthralled with duality and separation. One way to do this is to treat things as living beings, which allows the harmony of being to emerge. For example, treating things such as vehicles and computers with respect and appreciation produces better results than acting with resistance and frustration. Another way of saying this is that focusing on things that appear and disappear is fundamentally and inherently dishonest because it ignores the beingness expressing conscious light. When you treat objects as inert, you deny their indwelling beingness, which is dishonest. For example, a table is an object that will eventually disintegrate. However, you can take various actions relating to it. You can eat meals, stack papers, or make art at the table. You might even be able to stand on the table or hide under it. Actions and relationships are more important than things. To relate to objects effectively, acknowledge the light of being within them. Look beyond the physical level and connect with the light within yourself. You will then begin to discern the oneness of everything. The result is the opening of realms of experience in which you treat all existence with dignity. Honesty regarding people. Treating a person as a thing discounts that person's inherent beingness, which results in using that person without consideration for their concerns. Often people talk about relationships as things, which again discounts beingness and ignores concerns. For example, when people categorize others with a thing-based approach, they reduce people to labels and approach them with expectations, which dampens and even kills the aliveness of the relationship. Honest living involves living from eternal consciousness instead of exclusively from the personal self. While we all need a personal self to navigate this world, When the ego is conditioned and programmed with dishonest messages about how the universe operates, then people live inauthentically. Antithesis. The antithesis of honesty is not seeing the world as it actually is. Ignorance is dishonesty without malice. Refusing to learn is a more serious form of dishonesty. Deceiving intentionally, which includes withholding information, is a particularly harmful form of dishonesty because it destroys trust and corrupts a person's ability to operate from being. Being is the operation of consciousness in this space. Application: how to embody honesty. Honesty requires two actions. 1. Acknowledge the conscious light and therefore the beingness in everything. 2. Recognize that people are generally interpreting the world through their physical human senses, such as hearing and sight. Therefore, everyone is experiencing a unique personal reality. The most effective way to learn the operations of honesty is not from data and ideas from the personal self, but in partnership with eternal consciousness. In this partnership, you develop discernment for when people are being honest and when people are lacking honesty in whole or in part. Conscience is the gatekeeper for honesty. For human beings, a practical operational distinction for honesty is taking the action that needs to be taken, with whom it needs to be taken, when it needs to be taken, while complying with permission levels, community standards, and responsibilities. When someone's behavior affects you directly, you have permission to express your feelings respectfully. When you are concerned for another person's well-being, you can request permission to discuss your concerns. Recognize that past permissions do not necessarily carry into the present or the future. Regarding things, learn to articulate facticity, which is brought forth from two sources. The first source is how things are in the physical world, with conscious light inherent in everything. We can connect with that fundamental source through being. Understanding the inherent presence of conscious light reveals facticity. Operating with honesty means understanding that beingness connects the mundane world with universal consciousness through the embodiment of conscious light. The second source of facticity is linguistics, which is how we speak about what is occurring in the moment. The more our linguistic facticity aligns with physical facticity, the closer we are to honesty. Sometimes this means creating new words or repurposing existing ones to discuss beingness in operation. Aligning language with facticity can result in experiencing the flow state of being. In other words, living in the flow of life is the result of understanding the profane while operating from the sacred. Things can operate differently in different spaces. Therefore, facticity is specific to time, place, and condition. For example, the best choices for food depend on location and season, along with a person's physical development, health, digestive system, level of activity, and other factors. The facticity of a situation is given by circumstances such as physical experience and progression on the spiritual journey. The more grounded you are, the more you can discern the facticity of a situation. Grounded means your articulation of life closely matches what is actually occurring. Note that people take action from different levels of spiritual maturity and articulation, which is why they experience events very differently. Ask, what facticity is relevant to effective action? To live honestly, see things and work with things properly and accurately within the space in question. Regarding people, ascertain what you need to say and when you need to say it. This includes refraining from speaking when your contribution would detract from well-being. One of the main ways to follow the law of honesty is to understand the standards of permission regarding speaking in a particular domain. Before sharing something, question internally to discern whether or not what you want to add would be helpful. In addition, remember that you have the option of asking for permission. Understand, however, that people may not be self-aware enough to give you an honest answer about consent.